This is a huge week for Erik ten Hag, and while they're not going to sack Erik ten Hag off the back of this Tottenham defeat, it's going to have a huge impact on whether they sack him in the international break. No matter what happens, a decision will be made in the international break if they're going to pull the trigger this early. What is the cost of sacking ten Hag, and what is the possibility of that? Because INEOS did offer Thomas Tuchel a job. That has been revealed. INEOS are looking at alternatives. Frank, Potter, Eddie Howe, Southgate, Nagelsmann, Inzaghi, all being linked to United. But of course, a lot of that is probably media speculation, using Manchester United for clicks. One source says there's a plan for Ruud van Nistelrooy to act as interim. What has Romana said on the Ten Hag situation? What's the big question on the Ten Hag situation? I don't think a lot of people have been thinking about. That's a really good point made by Andy Mitten. And what about Ashworth? Graham Potter's come out and spoken about Ashworth and his relationship with managers. So hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United late night roundup. Well, I'm going to round up all the Manchester United news that's come out today into 10 minutes, so you're up to date with all the latest news. Please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, and let's dive into it. The mood was characterised as calm, though there is acceptance that this is a big week for Ten Hag as he attempts to turn around his side's form. The suggests losses is in one or both games may lead to his removal, particularly if the manner of defeat is alarming. But sacking Ten Hag will cost 17.5 million. Now, I understand why, as bad as it is and as much hope as I've lost around Erik ten Hag, I understand why INEOS haven't sacked him off the back of that Tottenham defeat, because they just brought in René Hake, Ruud van Nistelrooy for him, spent 200 million, and we're only 6 games into the Premier League season. They've spent all that money, they've brought in all those people, and it's going to cost them 17.5 million. You know, you could have made a decision to sack him in the summer. You've kept him, and you sack him 6 games into the season. It's not a good look for INEOS, particularly as they said just a month ago that they're backing him. To sack him a week later, it doesn't make their stance look good, and they said that they don't want to make decisions and react in the moment to sacking Ten Hag, which I understand. But as someone that has backed Ten Hag and been as positive as I can about Ten Hag, it's looking at this point like we are crap. We are losing 20 plus games by 3-0 or more. We are getting dominated. This feels like it's the worst it's been. I can understand if they did sack him off that performance. It was that bad, but they don't want to. But I think INEOS have known that performance is that bad and why they do not want to sack him that early, and they're hoping he'll turn it around. I think there's a lack of belief that he's going to turn it around because it's been bad for 18 months. And I think he's got these 2 games versus Porto and Villa to say, look, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you some progress. I'm going to show you a style of play that is worth backing. And that is the only way I think he saved his job, because I think if Villa and Porto are crap, particularly if the performances are awful and it's a loss and a draw, I think that he is a goner. And I thought they would give him to at least November, but I think he's a goner. Now, interestingly, one of the reasons I think he's a goner is because I think they never actually wanted him to stay. I think we obviously said this in my live stream the other day, that a big reason behind him staying was actually purely down to the fact that Ashworth wasn't in, and they actually wanted Ashworth to make that decision. So there was less confidence within making that decision, as one of the big things that was said. But also the fact that they had talk with McKenna, and that got leaked just before the FA Cup final, and McKenna said he wants to stay at Ipswich and have a year to get experience in the Premier League, which is totally fair. And because Chelsea also talked to McKenna, they found out that McKenna spoke to United and leaked that to the press because Chelsea wanted United to fail ahead of the FA Cup final, because obviously that means that Chelsea are in the Conference League, we're in the Europa League. They were talking to other managers. They admitted they were talking to other managers. They told Ten Hag that. But the difference is, it's not that we rejected Tuchel and said we're going to keep Ten Hag. INEOS gave Tuchel an offer and Tuchel said no. And it was said United offered Tuchel the job in the summer. He rejected the offer. Tuchel doesn't like the role on offer. So Tuchel rejected United. So we know in fact now Tuchel was offered the job. INEOS were willing to give Tuchel the Man United job, and he turned it down. Now, United briefed that Tuchel wasn't ready to return to management, but there was rumours of him taking the AC Milan job. So something's happened between Tuchel and INEOS, which meant Tuchel didn't want the job, which says to me, I don't think Tuchel's going to come in and replace Ten Hag in the next few weeks. If he's sacked, I think they'll be looking elsewhere. But that tells me the fact that Tuchel was offered the job, that INEOS really don't have 100% backing of Ten Hag. If we're going further into managerial candidates and who the managerial candidates could be if Erik ten Hag is sacked, we've got some interesting updates here. Muppeteer said this: Graham Potter will not be the United manager. He's not being considered. We've also been told by Laurie Whitwell and Fabrizio Romano that Southgate has not been considered. So Southgate and Potter, who are two managers that I think have been most linked because of their relationships with Ashworth, Brailsford, and those inside INEOS, apparently are not being considered. Eddie Howe was also not likely. Ashworth and him weren't exactly best friends, which is interesting. And most likely outcome is Rude seeing it out to the end of the season and appointing a brilliant coach in the summer, which I think is the case. I think right now there's not really anyone available that you're like, boom, I want him. Maybe in the summer they could get Inzaghi or Hoeneß. Don't think they want to come to us in the state we're in. Maybe, Thomas Frank you could maybe get now, but INEOS could have got him in the summer and they stuck with Ten Hag. I think most likely outcome is Rude staying. However, it was said by Ben Jacobs that Thomas Tuchel is unlikely to be frontrunner for the United job if Erik ten Hag was sacked, even though the German would welcome a fresh approach. So apparently Tuchel was still open to being the next Manchester United manager. Eddie Howe is a name who Manchester United have discussed over the summer, but again, I don't think his relationship's the best with Ashworth. And Manchester United would look for a more experienced coach than Ruud van Nistelrooy should Erik ten Hag be sacked. So he's saying something different. You've got Ben Jacobs saying one thing, Muppeteers saying the other thing. I think both are semi-reliable. They're not Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, Laurie Whitwell level reliable, but I would probably say Muppeteers have been a bit more accurate with their information than Ben Jacobs if we're going to say who's the more reliable of the two. So what could United's plan be? Because this is what Rob Dawson said. United believe they're well prepared to make a change if results and performances do not pick up, prompting Ruud van Nistelrooy, at least in the short term, is considered a viable option if the change becomes necessary. Ruud van Nistelrooy, with his managerial experience at PSV, would have the support of fellow assistants Rene Hacker, who was head coach at FC Utrecht and Go Ahead Eagles in the Netherlands before joining United. So there is talks of Ruud van Nistelrooy being the interim, came second with PSV, played good football with PSV, made loads of critical comments about Ten Hag last season, his setup and how he would change things. And people will say, but Ruud van Nistelrooy's here, so, surely he's not going to fix anything because he could just help Ten Hag fix it. It's not how it works. McKenna was here under Ollie, and McKenna goes to Ipswich and plays amazing football. Just because he's the assistant doesn't mean that, we're going to play exactly the same if he gets the job. We've seen how he played at PSV, and it could be a decent option. Romano said on the case, Man United are not considering sacking Ten Hag. It's not part of the plan at the moment. The next two games will be important for Erik ten Hag's future. It's not just about results. They want to see how the squad will react to this difficult moment, the kind of performance on the pitch and in terms of motivation. The feeling was the reaction is in a difficult moment was not the reaction you expect from important players wearing a Manchester United shirt. And that was said via United Truthful. So they're saying that we're not considering sacking Ten Hag at the moment, but the next two games will be important. So Romano's basically said we're not sacking Ten Hag today or tomorrow, but in the international break we might, because those next two games are important. They want to see a reaction. The feeling was that the reaction was not what you expect from United players. Now, this was something that was interesting, and I want your guys' opinion on this in the comments, but this was said by Adam Crafter. He said, I don't understand who is out there arguing in the relation to Ten Hag. Clubs often don't get first choice candidates, neither Slot and Postecoglou were. Man United are especially bad under Ten Hag and have been for an extended period of time. The idea that no one's better is absurd, and it's true. As someone that, wasn't convinced by the alternatives to Ten Hag in the summer, there are managers out there that could be doing a better job than Ten Hag at United right now, and I think that is something that INEOS will be considering. I want Ten Hag to turn it around. I want Ten Hag to make it work, but when you look at how bad we are, there's going to be other managers out there that are going to do better. Even if it's Thomas Frank, who you don't think is great, he could come into United and he could do a job. Is he someone you think's going to win you a Premier League title? No, but he could improve us, which I think is what we need to consider. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Ashworth because Graham Potter's been on Sky Sports today talking about Ashworth, and he said Ashworth, will support and help. That's my experience of working with him. I don't know the content and stuff United, but my experience with him at Brighton was he's very supportive. He knew how to challenge at the right time, but he also wanted to help you and help be there for you. Clubs have to create conditions for managers to succeed, and that's what they'll try to do. Now, while Ashworth makes a decision on Ten Hag's future, he is someone that's known to be supportive. He's already brought in 2 or 3 people to help Ten Hag, not just coaches, but psychologists to help with squad mentality and people to analyse the environment, to improve the environment that Ten Hag is coaching in, and all these specialists around United. He's doing everything he can to make Ten Hag's job as easy as he can. But I think Ashworth will know there's a point where he may have to pull the trigger on Ten Hag, and he wasn't there to make a decision earlier on. Dan Ashworth's a very clever man. While I want Ten Hag to succeed, if Dan Ashworth pulls the trigger on Ten Hag, I have no issue with it. If Dan Ashworth says I'm going to give Ten Hag a few more games, I have no issue with it. He's a very clever man. I think he wants Ten Hag to succeed and support the manager because of the backing that he's got. I think he's not going to sack him now. I think, to be honest, he may outlive Villa and Porto unless it's really bad. And I think it comes down to nearer Christmas when a real decision's made. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let me know your thoughts. But that was your 10-minute roundup. Please do hit the like button if you have not already. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. Bye.